Hi, I'm Nick Shell, and this is my special guest and my dad, Jack. And this week on my hair loss channel, I have been talking about the difference between being real and being relevant. How, as the creator of this series, of this hair loss channel, that if it were up to me to talk about what I want to talk about, then we wouldn't be talking about hair loss all the time. But I recognize as the host that I need to create content that you already want to watch. My built-in audience, I need to cater to you. So sometimes I'm more relevant than I am real, but I feel that this video right now that you're watching is going to be a perfect mix between real and relevant. You know, something I'm always trying to do too is I'm understanding my audience, is understanding why is it that when it comes to hair loss, that hair loss bothers certain men more so than others. You can have a 20-year-old guy that has lost all of his hair on top, and he's completely confident and unaffected by the fact that he's bald at such a young age. Meanwhile, you can have a 27-year-old guy who has a hairline that's even better than mine, and he's freaking out about it, and his confidence is destroyed. Why does that happen? Psychologically, what prepares certain men more so than others? Why does that happen? I think that's important to ask. So, therefore, one of the things I've been doing this year is trying to figure out, okay, out of my audience now, over 4,200 people, why is it that certain of you, what brings you all here more so than hair loss? And so one of the things I discovered is for those of you who are more likely to be emotionally affected by something other people do, you're probably more likely to be affected by hair loss. If someone can flip you off, and you get offended by it and your blood pressure goes up and you get angry and you want to react and reach out and revenge to what something else someone says, or if they can slight you, insult you, or hurt your feelings, if you so quickly react, if you're so quickly moved by other people in that way, you're also the same kind of guy who's more likely to be bothered by hair loss compared to someone like me. And I have to say, knowing you my whole life, I think you've been a prime example of someone who's not emotionally moved by other people. I mean, that's been probably a good reason why I am that way too, or I learned to become that way in my mid-30s. So, if you are easily offended and insulted by things other people do, if you give that emotional control of your life to other people, I say that you're more likely to be a part of my audience that's more affected by hair loss. I also have recently been talking about the fact that so much of my audience, I'm learning now from you, reading comments, that a lot of you are addicted to pornography. Being such a young age, you've had so much more access to it, and that is destroying your confidence, and I'm understanding that about you. And this is helpful to me because my whole role is to serve you and help you, okay? But another discovery I made this week, actually in the videos that I posted yesterday, I stepped into this concept that a lot of my viewers, my subscribers, don't have a positive role model that is a male in their life. And more specifically, so many of my viewers and subscribers have not had a positive relationship with their father, which is why that stereotype exists in movies and TV shows when someone goes to see a psychiatrist and the first question is they lay down on that couch. The first thing the psychiatrist asks them is, tell me about your relationship with your father. And the reason that's such a cliche is we are defined by our relationship with our father. You know, it's like in my mind right now, I think of this 20-something-year-old guy covered in tattoos all over, face, neck, everything, piercings everywhere. If we were to interview that guy, how was your relationship with your father? He'd probably be cursing and angry about his father, who was either abusive, over-controlling, not in the picture at all, abandoned his mother, all these things. It's a very predictable thing. And something I'm realizing about you, while you may not be to that extreme, there's a good chance that if you're watching my channel and being helped by my channel, it's because I am a positive role model in your life. And maybe in some ways, I'm sort of the positive father figure that you never had. And I accept that in a humble state of mind. With humility, I am realizing that. And it is an honor to serve you in that way. Because for me, obviously you can tell 5 minutes in this video, I have had that positive father figure in my life, my dad, who is right here in this video. So I have to say that if my dad wasn't the role model that he was and was always there for me, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be the confident person that I am now, making videos to help you. See, I'm doing the same thing. I'm saying a lot of you are here because you never had that positive father figure. And then I'm also turning on myself saying, and if I didn't have my positive father figure in my life, then I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to help you. So I'm recognizing that. And I think I need to be talking about that more in my videos. That demographically, going back to that 20-year-old guy who has lost all of his hair, I would speculate that that guy had that positive role model in his life. Meanwhile, the 27-year-old who's freaking out about a minor recession of hairline maybe didn't. And a positive father figure in your life has so much to do with you knowing who you are, formulating your identity and your confidence level, and your ability to control your emotions, your ability to handle things that you have no control over, but instead to focus on the things that you can. Now, nearly 6.5 minutes into the video, what I want to ask my dad here, even though I told you didn't have to talk, but this has kind of come to me as we've been doing this video. What would you say to, out of the 4,200 plus subscribers, for those who do not have a positive male role model or father figure or healthy relationship with their father, what do you say to them? How do they manage that?
Well, I didn't really have a positive father. You know, he was around, but he just really wasn't real positive. But I kind of learned, you know, what I wanted in, you know, from a father, and I took that, you know, with my children and said, this is what I wanted, so I'm giving this to my children, you know. And I kind of think, you know, you can see what do you want in a father? What would you like to have? And that's what you need to be. And that's the way you need to live your life.
It's amazing though, because that was a decision you made. I mean,
I made that decision.
It's funny because I was born when my dad was 24. I mean, you were so young comparatively speaking. I was 29 and a half when my son was born, but you were young and you had that ability to think that way. That's amazing. And I talk about this regularly on my channel, that another thing that often brings people together in my audience is that they've had trauma in their life that they never have resolved. They've never dealt with a professional, talk to a psychiatrist or a counselor to get over those things, which is why it bothers us. And something else I've talked about on my channel is addiction in general. I believe happens because of undealt with trauma that people experience young in life. So I've mentioned before, whether it's alcohol, drugs, gambling, pornography, whether it's anger, whether it's depression, or it's anxiety, all these issues that affect so many Americans in particular. I believe it's not so much that you're addicted to those things. It's that you have unresolved trauma from your childhood, from your early life, that you never had a chance to unpack. And therefore you have a hole right here that you're trying to fill with. And often insecurity, strangely enough, is what you're trying to fit in that hole. And then with your insecurity, then you stuff other stuff like these other addictions that I just brought up. Or if it's simply just the fact that you are very, you choose this toxic mindset. Oh no, my life, my world is falling apart because of my hair. No, it's not. It's because it's time for you to deal with those issues. And that's what I try to speak about in these things. So it's interesting though, because based on what my dad just said, you're a prime example of someone who, instead of never dealing with those issues, in a way you did, because you had a conscious thought, you know what, I didn't have this, so therefore I'm going to become this.
Yes.
And I think that you're the exception to the rule in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, because I think if I were in your position, I don't know that I would have been able to think that way. I think for me, as a younger child, I was really shy and I was really insecure. And I remember about 30 years ago, in first grade, I wasn't into sports, and I remember my parents said, you need to be involved in some kind of activity. So it was either soccer or it was Cub Scouts. And because we live in the tail end of the Appalachian Mountains here in northern Alabama, all these state parks and camping places, I chose to be a Cub Scout. And no surprise here, my dad and my mom chose to be the leaders of our troop. So from first grade to sixth grade, I was part of that. And that really helped form who I am. That's my love of the outdoors, why I love being outside, hiking and exploring all that stuff, because that became part of my identity in that. And it gave me a lot of confidence. But during those years though, I was the kind of kid who, if I didn't have a stable influence from my parents, and especially from my father, I would have fallen apart, and who knows where I would have been. So I am completely aware that my own dad is the reason why I am here making this video for you today. So obviously, making this video with my dad is one of my ways to thank him for that. And it really is. I want to close by saying this. I've talked about on Shark Tank on Damien, my favorite shark on that show, something he said years ago. He says, it's all about the proximity effect. You get to decide which people in your life influence you. And actually after a Cub Scouts and all that, then I became very involved in our church and our youth group. And then my dad became one of the youth leaders. So he was teaching lessons and all that stuff. And something he had said when teaching Sunday school when I was in high school, he said one of his lessons was, you become you become like your friends. You are your friends.
You are what your friends are, or you soon will be. You
are what your friends are, you soon will be. And likening that to what Damien said in the Shark Tank, it's the proximity effect. You look at all the people who socially influence you, the people that you are around the most, the people who you have the most exposure to. Okay? Just like what my dad said, you become like those people. Okay? And you may not necessarily have a choice about some of those people being in your life. Some of those people are going to be there by default, whether they're classmates or family members that you're going to be exposed to. But it's still a decision and a choice to find positive role models, especially male role models, that are going to speak life to you, that are going to speak confidence to you, that are going to speak identity to you in a positive way. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing this channel, because I give you an option to include me in part of that social circle, so that while you may not have anyone like me in your life, you can choose to add me to that circle, so that I can be somewhat, in some way, that positive role model, that dad you never had in some way, because I know that so many of you are here for that reason, because you never had that. And in all the ways I may be unqualified, I'm qualified enough to realize I'm helping a lot of people here. So it is an honor to serve you. Thank you for being here. And thank you, obviously, for my dad not only being here in this video, but also for being so active in my life, which is why I'm here today.